There is a reason that graffiti has been done for 20, 30 years even with solid paint sticks and streakers. That is because they are among the most versatile graffiti markers you can possibly be using in terms of how many different surfaces you can crush with them. And today, as someone who has immersed themselves heavily in the graffiti freight scene and been using solid paint sticks and streakers for many years at this point, I am going to rank all of the solid paint sticks and streakers that I have ever used from worst to best. I'll also tell you what the best things about each of them are, what environment each of them is suited to, and I'll also talk about some similar ones to each of these across different brands in case you are trying to figure out which kind of solid paint sticks to try out for yourself. I'll also try and link you to as many of the reviews of these that we have done here on the channel so that you can see each and every solid paint stick in action for yourself. And if you want to pick them up for yourself, I'll try and link as many as I can in the description below as well. Number 7, I did say from worst to best, and anyone who has seen my video on the worst graffiti supplies will be able to deduce which one this is. It's of course the all too well known Krink K80. And my beef with this one in particular is for two main reasons. A, the functionality of it, and B, the practicality of it. I'll tell you what I mean here. I have never seen something that is so hard right with so much stickiness. Like, you really do have to try and impale the surface you're trying to write on with this just to leave a mark. It'll take you a whole minute just to leave a 4-letter tag, I swear. And that goes even for if you're trying to write on steaming hot freight metal in the middle of an Arizona summer or something like that. I hope it's hot in Arizona, I don't actually know. So that speaks to the functionality aspect of it, but the practicality aspect of it for me is the same grievance I have with every Krink product, and it's why everyone hates Krink, I think. It costs like $10 US for one of these. And if you are a moniker artist or even just a freight tagger, you go through way too many solid paint sticks to be dishing out $10 for one of these. That's insane, especially when you can get 7, 8 of some other solid paint sticks for the same prices. It's like, you just can't do that, you know? It's not sustainable if you actually are using solid paint sticks on a regular basis. The only good thing I will say about the Krink K80, in fairness to it, is if the only thing you care about is permanence, this thing I think is more permanent than a lot of the other solid paint sticks on the market. Just the stickiness and the three-dimensionality it has to it allows it to really bind to a surface. I don't know what it is about it, but this formula was obviously made with permanence in mind. So if permanence is all you care about, maybe this is the option for you. I don't know. The second lowest one on this list for me in the number 6 spot is on here just because I never really found a real use for this, and that is the Flame Solid Wax marker. And this one's a little bit more unique. It is, again, like I said, wax. The deal with wax and ink solid sticks are as follows. They're a little bit more permanent most of the time when you use them on surfaces because the ink in the wax allows them to stain the surface that they're on, and it does bleed through some coats of paint that try to cover it up, much in the same way that inks would if you're using them in a normal graffiti mop or something like that. But one issue that happens because of the nature of inks as well is that inks have never been known for their opacity, and to be honest with this kind of thing, especially in a limited color selection of Flame, you do have to be writing on the exact right color surface for this to show up vibrantly and opaquely. And that totally takes out the versatility aspect of solid paint sticks. So for me, it's just why would I bother, you know? Some good things about this though, I do have to say, the twist up system is super smooth. You can twist it up and down, there's no difference there. So the marker itself is really nice. The wax ones tend to be nice and smooth writing. There's no stickiness to them at all. They're very beautiful to write with, actually, I do have to say. I remember when these came out, originally they were super expensive, at least where I am in Canada. Although since then, I think the price has come down a bit, and a few European graffiti writers have told me that they're super cheap over there. So maybe if you are in Europe and you do want to try something a little bit different, you could get your hands on one of these. The number 5 paint stick on this list is one that's no longer around, and it is, of course, the Genobo Scrawler. Rest in peace, Genobo Scrawler. And I want to be clear, I really liked this marker. If you ask any graffiti artist who used these when they were out at the time, the first thing they'd probably say is, ooh yeah, that's a really hard, solid paint stick. And that about sums it up. I won't include too much information about this because it's sort of a moot point since, you know, they're not being made anymore, sad face. But basically they're very similar to the Markle B paint sticks, just much harder, a little bit cheaper in most cases, I think, and their colors tended to be much more vibrant. Side note, yes, the Art Primo Hobo marker is very similar to this, but we are going to talk about that later on this list. My fourth top pick is still in the territory of ones that frankly I won't be looking to buy, but it's not because this one just has no use. It's because I just never really have a use for it, and that is the Molotow Scroll Stick. And of course, this one being a wax and ink one, the formula is going to have all the same problems as the Flame Solid Wax marker. That's because A, I believe Molotow owns Flame, and B, you can only make a wax and ink solid stick in so many different ways. Of course, they're going to have the same problems. I have actually used this one a fair bit, and it's really not that bad. For starters, it bleeds through like nobody's business. The 30mm broad tip is sort of a nice feature, and pretty much everyone manufacturing any kind of wax solid markers hasn't really explored ones this big, so that's sort of something that's going for it, I guess. On the downside, it's just so thick that it's a little bit annoying to write with, and it's thick enough that it's hard to carry in a pocket, frankly, as well. Being a Molotow product, though, you know two things for sure about it. A, it's going to be overly expensive, and B, the body of the marker is usually going to be pretty dang well engineered. That is the case with this as well. I'll show you a good close-up clip. This thing, you can twist it up and down. It works very well, functionally at least. So this marker is a little strange, but it does have a lot of value to it if you're a specific kind of graffiti writer who's going to enjoy using it. It's up to you, personal preference, of course. So we're in the top 3 now. This is where I'll start to be able to tell you about a lot of similar paint sticks to each other in different brands. Anyone who knows me is going to know without a doubt which solid paint stick I'm going to put at number 1. It's not going to be a surprise. In fact, if you think you know, throw it in the comments, and if you're right, I'll show the comments some love. And the number 3 one here is one that I could see myself buying again if it wasn't so damn expensive. And that is, of course, those premium hand-mixed solid paint sticks. I did a comprehensive review of these recently on the channel. It did really well, actually, so I guess a lot of people really liked it. But if you do want to see how these perform and know more about them, feel free to look at that in the cards in the corner or the description. But I won't go over everything there is to know about these, just that they are super soft. Obviously, they've got this whole multicolored thing going on with them, and they do have the twist up system from the bottom. But these things are expensive, like even more expensive than the Krink one here. And the company they're made by seems to say a lot of really bad stuff and tends to not really be able to answer questions about their products a lot of the time, and just, you know, weird stuff. And I think here is a good time to mention that Art Primo actually makes very similar multicolored split streaker paint sticks here like these, and they sell them for about $5 less each than one of these hand mixed. So I don't know, I would bet that most graffiti writers would probably want to support Art Primo if they were going to drop some cash on these to, you know, try these out. But that's something you guys can let me know in the comments. The second top solid paint stick that I've used on this list is the most similar to the hand mix. No, hand mix does not buy Sakura streakers and cut them up and repackage them. That's a common misconception, aided by the fact that the Graff Lounge did a review which got 500,000 views, and he said that in that. Anyway, that's not important. It was still a great video, I'm not saying anything to the contrary. But that being said, the formulae between hand mix and Sakura is almost identical. They write very similar. They feel identical to write with, to my hands at least. And to me, it's that stickiness that I never am ever going to get used to with the Sakura streakers. You know, they write nice and buttery a lot of the time, but not in all temperatures, and that's the key thing here. Speaking of temperatures, we just did a video video on the Sakura solid markers for low temperatures. If you want to see that video in the cards or the description, check it out. I almost wanted to make these like a separate item on this list because the formulae between the normal Sakura and the Sakura for low temperature is so different. There is no stickiness with this, or at least not quite as much, to be honest. If we're just talking about the formula, I actually like the low temperature ones better in almost all weather that I've tried them out in so far. And this is probably where I should tell you that as far as I know, the Sharpie Mean Streak and the Markall version of the streakers, not the Markall B paint sticks, the Markall streakers, are most similar, I would say, to the Sakura solid markers for low temperatures specifically. Those are some options if you want to try some out. Sakura did recently release these solid paint sticks for high temperatures specifically. If you do want to see a review on those, stay tuned. Consider subscribing to the channel, I guess. Number 1. Okay, let's face it, you guys probably all guessed correct, which is going to be my go-to paint stick. The best paint stick I have ever used is, of course, yes, it's the Markall B paint sticks here. It was never going to be anything different, now was it, guys? And I have used these, honestly, since like sort of the beginning of my graph career. I remember like the first shipment of paint I bought online 12-ish years ago at this point, I guess, actually had a Markall B paint stick in it that they included for free, and that was like the first one I used. So I've been using these at higher and higher frequencies for years and years at this point. And I will stand by the fact, I will die on this hill to say that these paint sticks are the most buttery and smooth paint sticks you can write with on hot, warmed up, nice freight metal specifically, especially if you're going to use the metallic colors. I personally, most of the time nowadays, use, of course, the white ones, the metallic ones as well, and the black ones. The other colors, not so much specifically because they are dull. Although they are dull, I should probably mention there's a ton of different colors you can get the Markall B paint sticks in. These things are just the epitome of versatility. They are all weather, they are all temperature, they're cheap, and they're a total classic in my book. I know some people are like, they're too hard, but to me that's just not a legitimate complaint. The Markall B1s here are obviously thicker if you do have a use for that. And don't you dare think that these are just for freight graffiti either. If you need proof, that great video with the legend himself, Craver from SDK, he used a lot of these Markall Bs in his A Day with Craver SDK video. That was a nice one. And I think it proves that they can be for street tags as well, or anything else, you know. The only downside with these, I do have to say, is that they're pretty messy if you do put them in your pocket, especially if you didn't use like the first little bit up and the cardboard's not going to cover it. That's a little bit annoying. Art Primo hobo sticks are obviously supposed to be very, very similar to these, and a lot of people swear by them. I know their silver hobo marker specifically is supposed to outdo all other brand silvers. I don't know if that's true. I haven't actually used it, but it might be a nice one to try out. But in general, any kind of solid paint stick is a great option for the freight graffiti scene and the street graffiti scene as well, because of just how versatile they are in terms of the number of surfaces you can crush with them, like I said. If you do want to see full reviews and tagging tests of any of these solid paint sticks, like the Markall Bs, the hand mix, the Sakura ones, the regular Sakuras, any of these, you can check the cards in the corner, or links in the description will be there as well. And you know what, I can even link a couple value packs down there that will save you some cash if you do want to buy one of them. I hope to see in the review on screen we put a lot of these solid paint sticks head to head, directly compare them, and you can see them in action if that's something you're interested in. Until then, peace.